My name is Jake Okechukwu Effoduh. I'm from Nigeria. I was privileged to be a 2016 Distinguished Humphrey Fellow. I work in the field of criminal justice, human rights, and law. So my fellowship involved me spending a week at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where I underwent a course called Leadership in the 21st Century, Chaos, Conflict, and Courage. And afterwards, I was attached to the United Nations Global Compact Office, and I worked in the anti-corruption division. The Humphrey program was a life transformative experience for me. I have had several engagements, but this particular one was actually very critical in terms of developing me and getting me ready for the task that I was going through at the time. My biggest takeaway from the fellowship was going back to Nigeria and realizing that leadership is not a position of authority, but leadership is addressing an adaptive challenge and working to see that it comes to pass. So I, for the first time, distinguished between a position of authority and what leadership really means about taking an adaptive challenge and seeing how you can address the issue to make it better. So in terms of fighting corruption, one thing I took back to Nigeria was that I had to learn how to engage with people, because corruption would not sit back and watch you fight it. Corruption would fight back. Coming from Harvard and the fellowship back to Nigeria, I realized how to sort of let people understand that I'm not fighting with them, but I'm trying to tackle an issue and retrieve stolen assets that were taken away from Nigeria by previous people who served in other offices before now. So I am a lawyer. I'm a criminal justice lawyer. I've been in human rights field for 8 years. That's human rights law. But I also work in media and communications. I host a radio show in Nigeria, which is a local pidgin, that's indigenous English, based show. And we talk about human rights issue in terms of socioeconomic rights to healthcare, water, education, and whatnot. But at the time, I served as a legal officer with the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, which is a think tank that was advising the government on how to reform the criminal justice sector, but also how to fight and tackle corruption in ways that would benefit and profit the people. One of which was recovering stolen assets that were away from from Nigeria, to get them back so that those monies can be used to develop the lives of Nigerians. First of all, I would like to recognize that this actually introduces me and my other colleagues to who Humphrey was. I think this phenomenal gentleman who served as vice president from 1965 to 1969 helped me realize and research about who was he, why is he being celebrated, why am I a Humphrey Fellow? And I recognize that in February 1965, he was appointed by the president to be on the Council for Equal Opportunity. That helped me learn about Humphrey's idea and his vision for the civil rights movement and for equality and justice for all. So I think I am taking the baton. I feel like I'm holding a torch. I'm living through the experience of what he lived and stood for, and I'm riding on his back with the title of a Humphrey Fellow. I'm working within my jurisdiction, within my space, to promote justice and to promote human rights for everyone, to promote equality, that everyone has a right playing field to have a better meaning of life and enjoy life in the way that Humphrey would have advocated for. More importantly, I think this also means that I can actually do way much more. I think sitting in the room with other Humphrey Fellows from different fields, medicine, technology, science, law, criminal justice, finance, people are really doing amazing things here in Africa. We just need a platform, and we would blossom and produce results in whatever fields that we engage in. But more important to me, I think, one thing I took away from the Humphrey Fellowship is that I don't need to have a position to be able to make the change that I want to see. More importantly, I think with my accolades and my degrees and my achievements and even my title as a Humphrey Fellow, going back to Nigeria, it's about making me a better servant and not a director. So with all my experience, all my travel, all the things that I've gained from going to these places and being a Humphrey Fellow, it is to make me a better servant, to listen more, do more, serve more, and not direct, point fingers, criticize, or stand in positions of authority and power. I think as a Humphrey Fellow, I think we owe it to the United States to defend her where possible. We're not saying the US is the perfect country, but there's a lot the US is getting really, really, really well. And I think when opportunities show themselves for us to give credit to that, we should. This might be difficult for people to do, but that's just the truth. Whether we like it or not, deny it or defend it, denounce it or decorate it, the impact of the Humphrey Fellowship has been, it's huge. It's unimaginable. You can't replicate it. It's something that we can't we cannot overemphasize. So these are great things that the US government is putting their money into, and the impact is very visible. I think the IIE, the exchange program divisions, the embassies that work with us to get these things to happen, I think you all need to give yourself a pat on the back. You need to sit down and seep in. It's a lot to just look at the impact, the overwhelming impact of what this fellowship has done, not only for the fellows individually, but for their communities, and also for the people who would do way much more because of what these fellows have done. So if you pick a fellow, for example, who has done an amazing work in Nigeria for a community of over 200 people, think about what those 200 people will do for their own families and their own communities. It's amazing. You know, it's geometric in terms of its impact. So I think we don't say this often, but we need to thank the IIE, we need to thank the exchange programs, we need to thank our embassies who sit and think and look and research to find out who are these people in these countries doing amazing things and how can we support them. So just to say a very big thank you to the program, but also do not relent, keep doing more, and also don't forget to ask us. Feel free to say, hey, how can you, let us engage. How can we help one another to see that we can improve the lives of more people across the world?